Hello, everybody. Welcome to June 15th, MLB DFS Talk. I guess this is a special Father's Day edition. I didn't even think to put that in the title here, but I've got a new guy alongside me, Nick. Nick, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I know we talked a little bit in the pre-show, and I was going to save some of the introductory talk for everybody else to hear. So before we get into any of the games, before we discuss Father's Day stuff and who's going to use the little blue bats to hit home runs and stuff, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know we talked a little about your DFS. What do you do? Kind of where are you located? How's it been going in DFS?
Good. I live in New York. I bartend mostly. Still going to school, studying life insurance, health insurance, all that stuff. I mainly started playing DFS a lot when I tore my Achilles. It was a softball injury. Nice and old man sport. Got
Ah,
hurt. Couldn't move for like 3 months, so I was laying in bed playing a lot of DFS. Got into the football and basketball really big. I've had a little bit of success. I did 16th in the bank shot last year. So that was probably my biggest score. I cashed in for a nice thousand. Had a good day. But baseball, I mainly do cash games. Haven't had a lot of baseball tournament success, but cash games, I seem to be cashing every day. It's all right. I have fun. I pretty
nice.
much wake up and start studying right away because I work nights, and then I shoot up right right to the bar and watch all the games there.
Right. Wow. So that's a pretty nice setup. I'm also a student. I have a day job here back home now, but so I get the luxury of watching the games at night when I'm not super busy. But that's pretty nice. You get to get paid and watch the games.
Well, I don't know.
So that's
I miss
all.
some of them. I miss some of them because I'm pouring drinks, but I get a good gist of them.
Right.
That's
Right.
it,
That's a pretty nice setup.
it works out. When it's slow, I get to watch all of them. That's the
Good.
plus. So what do you?
Right. Right. But then there's not as many tips.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's got its ups and downs. This is my
Right.
first time on a webcast, so
Okay. Well.
give me a little leeway here.
Yeah.
So
No. Not a problem. I remember my first time on the TV. Was a little nervous. Depending on, you never know like what's going to happen. But after a while, you get used to it. So
I'm hoping.
yeah.
I'm not too
Let
afraid.
let's Right. Right. Good. Let's talk about baseball though. I know you said you're playing most of your baseball. You said you're playing some at DraftKings, some at Draft Street. Um, we don't really ever talk too much site-specific stuff, but we do want to make sure that we talk about all the games and stuff like that. So I know I've got a list pulled up here. We talked about this beforehand. First game I have on my list is the Twins and the Tigers. No weather concerns. This is a game at Comerica Park. You said you had originally done your stuff by position. Are there any of those guys in this game that broke through your positional ranks?
Obviously, Cabrera. Cabrera has great stats for his right-handed pitching. He owns Nolasco. He's got batting 356 this year versus righties, 10 homers. He's the best player in baseball. He's my favorite player. Just in case if I'm ever on again, I'll probably recommend him every time. He's a little expensive, but he's by far probably the best play of the day today. He's also getting hot,
Yeah,
which helps.
right. You can't ever go wrong with Miggy. That's for sure. Yeah, best player in baseball, hands down. Aside from the few Mike Trout homers out there who will make a case for him, which I will accept. But he's going to go down as one of the greatest right-handed hitters in all of the game's history. And thanks to that and the matchup today against a guy like Ricky Nolasco, he obviously becomes one of the best players on the board. I think you have to mention Victor Martinez. This season he's been unreal, like absolutely insane. Another home run yesterday, I believe. I think he's got 17 now,
He's
which is crazy because this is a guy that we've notoriously, at least in the last few seasons, especially at a place like Comerica, we've kind of written him off as a power hitter. He's a guy that we expect to go up there and get hits and hit for a good average, but 17 home runs and we're not even at the All-Star break.
well, he's definitely on my site for FanDuel where he's catcher eligible. I love being able to play him at catcher. He's only 3,900, so I like that as well. That's not too much to pay up for him. Also, JD Martinez batting fifth. He uh he hits righties very well. In case you haven't noticed that yet, he bats 367, three homers, batting fifth. I think he's in a good spot today too.
Yeah, yep, that was another guy, and you're going to be able to get a lot of salary relief from a guy like JD Martinez. Um, and Kinsler at the top is always a spark plug. I like him a lot better against lefties, but just another guy to mention. It would be nice if we had the Twins lineup. That lineup is actually not out yet. It's tough to kind of pick and choose around that. But man, they've had some guys that have been swinging it pretty well. I know Danny Santana has been pretty solid as like a value guy across the board. Are there any of those guys that you're thinking about or no?
I really don't trust the Twins ever. I know they had a lot of guys that could hit. Arcia could hit. Willingham hits righties well. Um, Nunez hits righties well. It just depends where they're placed and the pricing on them. I'm not against using the Twins because Porcello, he lets people on base. He doesn't give up a ton of runs and he gets wins, but he lets people on base.
Right. Right. Yeah, you know what? The Twins are just it's tough for me to get on board with using a ton of Twins. It's been a common theme all season long, and it will continue in that trend. But we should, I guess, move on to the next one because there's not much else to say on this. The Padres and Mets. Oh man, what two disgusting teams. It's really difficult to even want to discuss these guys at all. But this is a game at Citi Field. Dice K on the bump for the Mets, and Ian Kennedy for the Padres. Are you on either one of these pitchers? I wouldn't expect you to be on Dice K, but maybe Ian Kennedy. Does that guy like intrigue you at all?
He does. The Mets. I'm a Met fan. Sorry to say this, but
Uh,
they strike out a whole lot, and their offense really isn't scary. I mean, I watch them, probably 3 or 4 days a week. It's just no one scares me. David Wright's obviously great, but he strikes out two or three times a game sometimes. I mean, their lineup is not scary at all. There's no one. There's
yeah.
no one for the Mets I would target, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. The Mets are. I mean, I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and our lineup's pretty atrocious. But the Mets is, it kind of falls in that category too. Just pulling up the team totals, which is something that we're, commonly looking at. The Mets have a team total of 3, which is obviously, one of the lower ones on the day, and kind of a signal that they're not expecting a whole lot out of that offense on a given day.
Yeah.
So let's see. That lineup is out right now. Granderson leading off, Murphy, Wright, Abreu, Andrew Brown, Duda, Flores, Recker, and Dice K. So it's not a star-studded lineup unless you want to regress Bobby Abreu back like 7 to 10 years and put Curtis Granderson in a better ballpark to hit. There's not much there that should scare anybody. So, yeah, I think Ian Kennedy definitely is on the board. I think he's a pretty solid, second starting pitcher on sites like DraftKings or Draft Day where you need 2. There are some options that I always feel more comfortable with and, some better matchups when we get to, David Price and stuff like that. But I think Ian Kennedy.
Ian Kennedy's he's a little expensive on DraftKings as well. They know. I mean, he's not cheap. He's not starting 1, but he's not gay. He's not. They don't have him ranked all the way down towards the. He's not a huge value play. I mean, he'll get you points, but I'm waiting to see San Diego's lineup. I like Seth Smith against Dice K. Dice K's been pitching well, but I don't know how it could last. He's not that good.
No.
But his numbers this year are really good. It's unreal. The last 2 times out, I've targeted him the last 2 times, and he's burned me both times.
Yeah, that's a common. I have that problem targeting Cubs guys, or the other way around, not targeting Cubs hitters against a bad pitcher for the fear that the Cubs aren't going to do anything, and then they explode.
Exactly.
You can never seem to pick when your team's going to actually, play up to what you'd like them to.
Yeah,
but anyway,
they always burn me.
right. Anyway, we'll move on because there's not a whole lot to talk about in that one. The next one, there's one guy I think you have to really, really talk about. It's the Pirates and the Marlins. Andrew McCutchen has been absolutely unreal recently. Just like incredible recently, kind of showing us why he, was obviously the National League MVP last year. And I mean, you could have made a case for a couple different guys in the National League, but obviously, what the Pirates did last season helped McCutchen's cause. The fact that he's a Gold Glove outfielder helped his cause, all that type of stuff. But he's definitely playing like an MVP type guy right now. He's been on fire.
Yeah.
The Pirates see Henderson Alvarez today, who's been, a guy who goes out and he pitches very efficiently. And I think it's a team that I think Henderson Alvarez is a guy that could make a team like the Pirates struggle. But there are a few guys to mention there. Gregory Polanco has been excellent since he's been called up. McCutchen's been red hot. Are there any other guys in this game? And, I know on the other side of this, Vance Worley's pitching for the Pirates. So there's got to be maybe some Marlins that you like. Let me know what you're thinking here in this game.
I was definitely on Polanco as well. I mean, McCutchen's hot, so if you could fit him in, there's never a bad time to take a guy when he's raking as hot as he is right now. I mean, Polanco's dirt cheap, so the kid's hitting. He's just hitting especially the last 2 games. He's starting to get on fire too, and he's salary relief. I like Stanton. Worley's not a good pitcher, so if you could fit Stanton in, Garrett Jones is also. I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup. They switch their lineup all the time, I believe. But if Garrett Jones is in the lineup, I think he's in a good spot. Casey McGee usually bats in the 4-hole, gets some RBIs against a bad pitcher. I mean, the Marlins bats aren't bad, especially at home, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, I know everybody knows that split, but if they score a lot of runs at home, so if you can get them in, Yelich, Ozuna is hit or miss, but he's good for home runs, good for RBIs. They have some really good players. I don't trust their middle infielders, but I take their outfielders, their corner infielders.
Right, yeah. Yelich is like one of my favorite players in all of baseball. He was not in the lineup yesterday. I think he left the game early Friday night. So definitely kind of wait and see like what's going on there. Otherwise you mentioned Giancarlo Stanton. Obviously that guy's kind of always in play, especially against a guy like Vance Worley. Vance Worley shouldn't scare you away from any of the hitters in this game at all. But obviously, there are some with better matchups than others. And you mentioned Polanco and McCutchen, kind of no-brainers right now. Polanco at that price, at the top of that order, it's just tough with the potential that guy brings to the table because there's a lot of upside with him, even if you guys aren't aware. This is one of the best prospects in all of baseball. There's a lot of upside behind him. At that price, it's almost like, if you don't take him, why not? There's no cons to taking a guy like Gregory Polanco today.
The other night, the 4-for-7 game, he really boosted me up in the Star Streak grind. He pushed me all the way up. I made some good money off just him basically alone. I had Kershaw, but he threw me right up. Polanco was pretty much my best hitter.
Yep.
And he was nothing of my salary.
Exactly. And, that's what we're looking for every single day is to find those value guys who, allow you to fit the Miggy, the Kershaws and stuff like that. And we're looking for those value guys that allow us to do that. And then when those value guys are good, chances are that our team is really good, assuming that the guys we pay for perform.
Well, the value guys to me, I think I use to make sure I get a pitcher that I want. If I get a nice value bat, I can pick any pitcher I want. I don't have to settle for a guy that I think has a decent matchup and I go for the guy that I think's up here. That's what that's what the value plays do for me because I'm mostly a cash game player.
Exactly. We've stressed this to long shots and some of the other guys that have come on. That picking those safe pitchers is like the most important thing, especially for cash game play in baseball.
Exactly.
It's the most important thing. So when you can use that extra money on the table to get the guy that you feel comfortable with, it totally makes a complete difference in your performance in cash games and your team's overall score on any given day anyway.
Exactly. Starting pitching. Always safe starting pitching. That's what I'm always looking for.
Right. We'll move on to the next game, the Blue Jays and the Orioles. And finally, it was a really super weird week weather-wise on the East Coast here. But finally today, and yesterday wasn't as bad, we're getting to where we don't really have to worry about weather quite as much. Today at Camden Yards in Baltimore, it's the Blue Jays and the Orioles. Chris Tillman and J.A. Happ What are your thoughts here? There might have been somebody from some of these offenses that kind of broke into your ranks.
All these bats are in play. Almost, I mean, there's almost no one that I wouldn't be able to put out on at least a GPP lineup. Steve Pearce is batting fifth. He's cheap, first base. Give you some solid relief. Obviously, the main plays Nelson Cruz and Adam Jones both crush left-handed pitching. Both bat over 375 versus left-handed pitching. Both have a ton of home runs versus left-handed pitching. J.A. Happ is not very good. His ERA is a 4.67 so far. I mean, this whole team is in play. Machado, you can put him in there. He'll get on base, hopefully. And then Cruz and Andrew Jones will be knocking him in. Markakis leading off. He'll hopefully be on base. He's a high on base guy. Get some runs. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for safe plays, Baltimore's probably the safest stack of the day.
Yeah. You know what? I really like some of those right-handed guys, especially Nelson Cruz, Adam Jones. I love those guys. But you mentioned Steve Pearce hitting 5. Delman Young's back in that lineup. And then you got Scope and man, my thing is refreshing now. Must be a lineup came in. Scope and Hundley and Hardy, down at the bottom there. Who, like they're not super appetizing plays, but the right-handed guys against J.A. Happ, that if you need the salary, like we talked about,
Exactly.
I'm okay with maybe punting with somebody like that. On the other end of it, Chris Tillman's a guy with good stuff. Hasn't really put it all together quite yet. But that 1 through 4 for the Blue Jays, they're in play every single day. Reyes, Cabrera, Batista, Encarnacion, every single day against just about anybody. Those guys, you can put them in your lineup and feel okay about it. That's how I feel again today. Especially at a Camden Yards is a good hitting park too. So.
I would have taken Adam Lind into consideration. I just realized he's not in the lineup. I had him listed too, but I just noticed he wasn't in. So it threw me off for a second. I was about to bring him up. I like Lind.
Yeah. He should have been slotted in that 5 hole. That's where Laurie is today. I would have liked Adam Lind a lot, too. But of course, not in there today.
I noticed. I was about to bring him up, and then I noticed that I saw he wasn't in there. I almost made a rookie mistake right there.
Yep. But just to let you guys know, because I'm sure other people had that same exact thought, he's not in the lineup today. Encarnacion at first, and Deanna Navarro is DHing. Anyway.
And Encarnacion is definitely in play versus Tillman as well. He's expensive, but it's a lot of pop. He's got a lot of pop. He's hit 16 home runs this year versus right-handed pitching. I mean, you can't forget about that. His average isn't great. It's 273, but 16 home runs is 16 home runs. That's obviously going to get you the most points on any site.
Yep. Man, you can't go wrong with a guy who has a lot of home run power and the potential to do so every day against any given guy, and that's Edwin Encarnacion and Jose Batista, those guys. So they frequently find their way into my lineup and are always in consideration when we're kind of talking about these games. The next game though is another game in a pretty good hitters park at Miller Park. There, or actually I skipped a couple. I'm on the wrong list now. The next game I have is the Red Sox and Indians at Fenway Park. Not a bad hitter's park either. The Red Sox have been furious. One of the other guys, Brandon, who's on the show, the Red Sox have been quite a team this year. They string together 4 or 5 wins, lose like 10 in a row, win 7 in a row, lose 10 in a row. They keep doing stuff like that. But anyway, Brandon Workman on the bump for them, a young righty, 25-year-old righty, on the bump against Corey Kluber, who's been, quite a surprise this season, especially in the strikeout category. Are any of these pitchers? Are there any hitters? Like, what's kind of your thoughts on this game, maybe in general?
I'm not using the pitchers. I'm not against Kluber. Workman doesn't pitch very long into games. I think he has a low pitch count. I don't know exact pitch count, but it's not high. I mean, I want my pitcher to go at least 6-7 innings. There's no guarantee that Workman's going to go that far. So I'm not really going to use either of these pitchers. Kluber's good. He's just too expensive to me to be in a matchup,
Right.
I like Chisenhall out of all the players and Ortiz, but I love Chisenhall in this. I mean, he's just crushing right-handed pitchers. 364 average this year. I mean, he's got a bunch of home runs. I mean, most of them were in one day, but he's uh he's solid, Chisenhall. I like him today. And Ortiz is Ortiz. His price is going down. He hits right-handed pitching, as everyone knows, and he could break out for 3 home runs any day.
Yeah, yeah, all those guys that you mentioned definitely. We could talk about Lonnie Chisenhall for a while about kind of what's transpired with him recently and his season as a whole. Pretty crazy that night. What a night to have Lonnie Chisenhall. Man, that was a night where I actually was managing an American Legion game and didn't end up getting a chance to play, but my brother cursed up and down all night long with text messages about how he had Lonnie Chisenhall on like one or two sites, but not on like all the sites that he played, and he was pretty upset about that. So, but yeah, the crazy night. Lonnie Chisenhall was definitely in play. The other guys you mentioned, and on the Kluber note, I really like what Kluber brings to the table. The K potential is awesome, but like you said, where his price is at now because of those strikeouts against a team like the Red Sox, who have been like oddly inconsistent this season, but on any given day, I think their lineup is too good for me to feel safe paying that much money for a guy like Kluber.
Yeah, he's not worth he's not the price. He's not worth the price when I see Madison Baumgartner same price or cheaper, Iwakuma same price or cheaper. I just don't see myself spending on a guy who could possibly get crushed by one of the better lineups in baseball.
Right. Yep, that's exactly how I feel today.
Price is a huge thing when you're picking players, and people have to realize that just because somebody's better doesn't mean they're the better play.
Right, exactly. That's a really good point. Anyway, the next game we have is the Phillies and the Cubs. My Cubbies trying to maybe take this series at Citizens Bank Park. I could go at length about the Cubs. It's Travis Wood today against this Phillies lineup who's primarily left-handed against A.J. Burnett, a guy that the Cubs are familiar with, pitching in the NL Central here for the last few years. What are your thoughts, I guess, originally on this game?
I was looking at Anthony Rizzo. I hate A.J. Burnett. Not a huge fan. Rizzo has just been solid this year. He hits righties well. He gets on base. I mean, there's no one else I really would. I mean, maybe Castro. He's batting cleanup. He's not expensive, but I'm not sold on him. I hate the Phillies, as you know. I'm a Met fan, so I'm not big on. There's got to be Jimmy Rollins, possibly Marlon Byrd. I would target some of the righties. I wouldn't go Utley. There's no Howard in the lineup. This is just not a really good lineup. The Phillies are. Thank God the Phillies aren't good anymore.
Right. Yeah. I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania, so I deal with a lot of Phillies fans, and it's awesome that they suck. But I'm also a diehard Cubs fan, so I don't really have anything to rub in their face unless they take the series today. Bell in the chat actually he wanted me to discuss Luis Valbuena, who's been fantastic, honestly. And I know this is really weird to hear me say, and this isn't even me being it's not even me being a homer. But Luis Valbuena in the last few weeks to the last month has been one of the best hitters in baseball, honestly. Numbers wise, if you kind of just take a look at it, he's been pretty incredible. Hit a home run yesterday.
I used him
today against a guy like AJ Burnett. Right? Yeah, he's been excellent. I can't really even give you a good reason as to why he's been as good as he has. But he's been awesome. And the really cool thing about him today is that he's hitting leadoff. And I really like that.
Isn't there?
Why not get that guy up? Sorry.
Don't they have a top prospect at third base coming up soon?
Yeah, Chris Bryant. The Cubs are going to have to do some shuffling here because they've got a lot of really big prospects that are going to be here relatively shortly, and a lot of them are right now infield positional prospects. Baez, Alcantara.
I know Baez. I forgot Bryant's name. I knew he was a third baseman though.
Right. Yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be a Cubs fan. We'll see. But we're focused on today. So I think Valbuena is definitely a guy, especially at the price he's at still. Rizzo is actually, him and Starlin have swapped. He's hitting 4 today. I think you gotta love Rizzo. And then a couple other left-handed bats in there that I'm not super huge on. I'd like Sherholtz more than Sweeney, but Ryan Sweeney's in there hitting 5th. If you're trying to pair some Cubs left-handed bats in like a mini stack for a GPP, Valbueno, Rizzo, Sweeney, Sherholtz. I would pick Sherholtz over Sweeney, but
Definitely.
ideally with the 5 and the 6, it's kind of a toss up there. Sherholtz.
I'm not big on Sweeney. I like Shearholtz. I think he's a solid player that just doesn't get enough credit. I mean,
Right.
he's not a great player, but he's a solid outfielder.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. His numbers aren't as good this year as they were last year, so his trade value kind of went down. I'm not sure if he'll be with us after the All-Star break or after the trade deadline or not, but I guess we'll see.
Doesn't he have a cannon? Doesn't he have a cannon in the outfield too?
I'm not honestly even sure what his arm is in comparison to others. He's not a bad defensive right fielder, at least for us, playing at Wrigley. But to compare him to somebody, I couldn't do so. I know his arm isn't Yoenis Cespedes like. I'll say that.
No, there's not many that are.
No. You might have to travel back to Vlad to be able to find anybody like that. Anyway, though, I guess we'll move on to the Royals and the White Sox. 2:10 Eastern start. This is at U.S. Cellular Field. Now, this is a game that weather is it looks like it's going to be maybe some rain at the back half of this game, and also the wind appears to be storming in from right center. Just to let you guys know who's on the bump for this, let me see here. Andre Rienzo for the White Sox, who is just not a good pitcher, not somebody that you should think about really targeting. And on the other end, Big Game Shields, who is a guy I think you could maybe discuss as a solid GPP option today. What are your thoughts here?
I like Shields all around. I'm considering targeting him in my cash games as well. The White Sox really don't scare me. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to use him, but I'm looking at him. He's one of the people I have in mind. Their lineup isn't very good. Eaton's a solid player. I don't like Beckham. I don't like Gillespie. Obviously, Jose Abreu and Dunn could hit home runs at any time. The one person today that kind of scares me is Alexei. Alexei's got really good numbers off of Shields in his career. I have it written down here. Sorry, give me a sec. I wrote it down on my notes. Where is he? Sorry, give me one sec. Alexei. I don't even know where I wrote him. Oh, he's 19 for 45 with 2 home runs career off Shields. So he kind of scares me against Shields. But, I mean, they're not very good all in all. I can definitely see myself using him in cash games today. Like you said, the rain's supposed to come, but that's not supposed to be till like 4 o'clock. So that could be 2 hours into the game. Shields should be deep enough to get you points.
Agreed. I really like Shields. And you know what? The rain isn't even – it's 30% chance. Isolated thunderstorms and wind. That's and the wind obviously only helps James Shields, especially if it's blowing in like it is.
It's blowing in at like 20 miles per hour from what I saw.
Right. So in that regards, and obviously I think he even gets a boost. And the rain shouldn't deter you from using James Shields today. Other than that, the Royals offensively are disgusting. I would love to be able to take advantage of this matchup, but with the wind like it is,
they don't strike out. So the way I see it is, Rinaldo is not a good pitcher. So why not at least target the lefty bats? Dyson's cheap and leading off. Hosmer is batting third for 3-2 on DK. Gordon's batting fifth for 3-3. All lefties. The hit righties okay, and he can't seem to pitch the lefties. So I think they have to be in play, especially for their price.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not on board with them because of the lack of obviously the lack of home runs there because they've been atrocious power wise, and because of the wind. Offensively, I know it doesn't really matter, especially for guys like Gordon and Hosmer who don't really hit a lot of long balls anyway.
Exactly.
And Rienzo not being a good pitcher, it's just it kind of limits their upside. That's what deters me away from them on a day like today. I really like Eric Hosmer as a player. I like Alex Gordon as a player. But today, even despite the good matchup, it's just not going to be a day where I'm going to be using them. But I can definitely understand your thought process on picking them with the platoon advantage against a bad right-handed guy.
Well, they could be they could be a sneaky stack too. If you're gonna do a GPP, you could throw in Dyson, Hosmer, Gordon, and throw in one of the other guys. If you want to go all lefties, you can throw Moustakas, or if you want to take middle of the lineup, you can go Billy Butler, who finally hit a home run yesterday.
Yeah, Billy Butler, man. What a conundrum that guy is. For as
I
big as
I
he
loved
is.
him this year. Going into my season longs, I absolutely loved him, and he burned me in 2 or 3 leagues. He's already
Yeah.
been dropped. He's already been dropped in 2 of them. I can't sit there and use him. I can't use his 270 batting average with no pop.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's tough. Poor Billy. Anyway, though, moving on to the Reds and the Brewers, a game at Miller Park that I jumped the gun on. I guess maybe I was a little bit excited to talk about it. Billy Hamilton was actually really good yesterday. I used him in some spots. No stolen bases. He got caught stealing, but he homered. He hit a ground rule double. I believe he homered, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw that. So that's cool, but obviously that's not the reason that we take Billy Butler, or not Billy Butler, sorry. That's not the reason we take Billy Hamilton. We take him obviously because of the speed and what he can do on the base paths. But obviously when something like that happens, that's pretty cool. Anyway, though, it's Mike Leake who's throwing for, man, I can't even think of their team name now. The Reds, and Marco Estrada, the righty from the Brewers, throwing today. You have thoughts on this? I love that the Reds have Joey Votto back in that lineup. I think it's gonna make a big difference. Do you like some of those Reds lefties? Because I kind of like Billy and Votto and Bruce against Estrada.
Yeah, I like Votto. I like Bruce. I like Phillips. Leak, his numbers, if you look at them, don't look bad. But his last 2 outings, he has not pitched well. So I take that into consideration. Like, if people click on his numbers and click, he's got a good ERA. He's got good whip. He doesn't look like a bad option, but I would not use him today. I mean, Milwaukee's not great, but they have, Jeanette leading off. I like him. Ryan Braun, Lucroy, Carlos Gomez. Someone, if you're a BVP guy that you might want to avoid is Aramis. He seems to not hit Mr. Leak very well, but he's still got potential to hit a home run on any day. Chris Davis, Mark Reynolds, is Pop, Segura. This is not a lineup that I like to target against. Whether people say they're good or not, they just have a lot of scary hitters.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sold on either pitcher. I obviously mentioned I like some of those Reds. I just, today doesn't seem like a day where you have to use a guy like Mike Leake. We haven't gotten to them yet, but there are some, top names, a few that we're going to get to that just kind of scream like, hey, use me. Don't waste your time using a guy like Mike Leake.
Yeah, there's a few must-play pitchers, I think, out there.
Right. That's how I feel, and that's why I won't use Mike Leake. And you mentioned, if you look at the numbers, you're not going to be like, first of all, you're not going to be like, wow, Mike Leake's been bad. He's been pretty decent. He's been not so good lately.
Yeah, his last 2 starts scare you. They'll even out. They're starting to even out his numbers.
Right. That's how I feel. I think that's kind of how it's gonna go, because I don't think Mike Leake. I don't think he's the guy.
Votto's the play in this game. If you're going to play anybody for a cash game, the guy gets on base. Simple as that. Estrada's an okay pitcher. He's not bad. Strikes people out, but Votto doesn't strike out. Votto will be on base. Votto walks. Votto hits. He's always potential for a home run. I mean, he's not. Estrada gives up home runs. That's basically. So Jay Bruce, definitely, if you wanna take a chance, Jay Bruce hits home runs. Marco Estrada gives up home runs.
Right.
That's a chance that you should be willing to take.
Exactly. Votto, I'm glad you mentioned Votto being a cash game play, because he's like one of those ultimate safe cash game plays. He's kind of like a guy like Shin-Soo Choo that just gets on base, and
gets you 5 to 7 points.
Right.
Especially at the price he's at right now. That's more than okay.
Exactly. On the other end of it, we mentioned kind of the Brewers' bats a little bit. Me not being on Leak. Braun, kind of always is just, we don't have to discuss superstars like that.
And then you got hit second right now, but that's what they want to do.
Hey, yeah, Luke Roy's been really good behind him, and then you got Cargo Light hitting 4. But Scooter Jeanette's the guy I wanted to talk about against right-handed guys. He's been real good, leading off again in front of Braun. Just another guy his price still is kind of in that mid-tier range that
I
You
try
can,
I try and squeeze him in almost every day just because of how cheap he is and the production. He very rarely gets me a zero. He usually gets a walk or a steal or a hit. I mean, on DraftKings he's 2.8, which I try and he's shortstop and second base eligible. So I usually squeeze him in one of those two spots.
yeah, yeah. That 2.8, and especially being that middle infield eligibility, it's almost a steal to have a guy like that leading off at the top of the order in front of guys like Braun and Lucroy and Gomez. Especially with what he's produced. So just doesn't really make sense, but I think you guys need to take advantage of it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, he's dirt cheap.
Right. We'll move along though, because we do have quite a few to get to, and we're actually, it goes by. You'll learn as you keep doing more and more shows. They fly by. Before you know it, you look up and it's like 11:36 right now, and you've still got like 6 or 7 games to get to. But this next game we probably want to do a lot of discussing on because I think there's one thing that really stands out above the rest: the Rays and the Astros. I think it's David Price. I think that's what jumps out maybe the most in this game.
Definitely. I'm definitely going to be trying to get him in some of my lineups. The Astros are hot, so they kind of scare me, but all in all, it's David Price. I'm not necessarily going to be using him all over the place, but he's definitely in consideration. There's two other pitchers I like better, which we'll get to. They still haven't came out yet, but I like Price, and Price is definitely worth taking. His K rate is unreal this year, so he's definitely worth it, and the Astros strike out a ton. But they're hot. They're scary to me.
Yeah, yeah, they man, and people will bring up the home and road splits for David Price. So that's another thing. If you're into looking at something like that, to me typically it's more about the matchup with the team, and Houston has been good and they're actually better against left-handed guys, but they're still a young team. They're still quite undisciplined. They still strike out. And David Price, like you mentioned, the K rate's been kind of unreal. And the other thing I really love about David Price is that Joe Madden's going to give him a really long leash. Like, he's going to go out there and he's going to pitch. And, even if he gets hit around for 2 or 3 runs, he's going to be out there in the 7th, in the 8th, he's seemingly always on the mound there, which, only means more points for us. So that's, one of the biggest reasons I love David Price. And I think something that we commonly, forget about, that this is a guy that can go deep, because what you talked about it with a guy like Brandon Workman. It's a guy that doesn't travel deep into a game, and you need a guy to be out there to get points. So
Yeah.
I think you guys need to consider that before you just jump right on a matchup. If a guy's only going to go 5 innings, there's no point in taking him, especially in GPPs, where you need high upside, high ceiling. So that's one of the reasons I love David Price, and you kind of seconded that. Are there any hitters, maybe any Astros hitter or not Astros hitters, any Rays hitters that you would think about using against Peacock?
Well, just so everyone knows, Altuve is not in the lineup. He was expected back today. He crushes lefties. So if you were looking at using Altuve, don't. Matt Joyce, I like. He hits righties. Matt Joyce is never expensive for some reason. The guy is always cheap, and I think he's 2,900 on FanDuel, and not much more on DraftKings. 33 on DraftKings, so he's definitely in play. The Rays really don't hit, to be honest. If you haven't noticed, Longoria is always in play, but I tend to shy away from their bats.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Man, I'm never on Rays, and for good reason, and I guess that's actually worked out for me. Their lineup isn't out yet, but there won't be a whole lot of them in my lineup anyway. I think Zobrist is an interesting guy because he has he's eligible on a bunch of different positions. And you mentioned Matt Joyce and Longoria kind of always being maybe an option. It's just not something I'm really diving into, even though it is Brad Peacock, which makes me sad, but oh well.
They don't score enough. You'll get burned by not using them once in a while, but 6 out of 7 days, it seems to be working not using the Rays bat.
Right. The next game, though, is the Nationals and Cardinals at Busch Stadium. It looks like there's going to be some rain early in this game that's going to kind of move out and then more rain later. I'm not exactly sure kind of what to do with it. So I guess kind of monitor that situation, guys. It's a 2:15 Eastern start at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Doug Fister and Jaime Garcia kind of battling it out. Jaime being left-handed, obviously, and Fister being a righty. Any guys here? Are you on the pitchers? Are you on hitters? What are you thinking?
I'm strictly GPP in this game. I'm not really playing many guys from here, to be honest. Jason Worth, GPP. They're both the pitchers are decent. I don't think either of them have great matchups. The weather kind of pushes me away. Matt Carpenter, I kind of like. Fister is worse against lefties. So if you're gonna take anybody, I take the lefty bats from the Cardinals. It's a game I'm shying away. I don't like the weather being spotty the entire game. If I take a pitcher from there and they start the game and it goes delay and they don't come back.
Right. Did I lose you? Uh-oh. I think we lost him. Okay. Anyway, maybe he'll hop back in here. I'm not sure if it's his internet. I don't think it's mine. Hopefully somebody in the chat can let me know. I think we lost him. Just a second, guys. Bear with me. I think I'm still here. I think I'm good. I was Furious. I know I'm Furious in the chat. That'd be cool if he could let me know. Okay, it's just me. That's fine. I just sent him another invite. Hopefully he can hop in here soon. Hopefully you guys can't hear that noise. If you can, I'm just gonna pan it on me for right now. Anyway, I'll continue to discuss this and finish things up. That's not an issue. And if he gets back in here, he does. If not, just to mention, even with him not here, hopefully you guys are taking advantage of this because this is a guy on his first show with us who honestly knocked it out of the park. Was very well prepared and knows his stuff. So that's awesome to have another guy to be alongside. But anyway, he was finishing up talking about that Cardinals game. Some of the left-handed bats in there. The Cardinals actually already sent down Tavares, so that's because everybody was so excited when he came up, and then you kind of just didn't hear anything about him when he got sent back down. But anyway, not much else on that game because of the weather. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other games to get to that I'm going to talk about here. The Yankees and the A's. This is a game at Oakland in the Oakland Coliseum there. Jesse Chavez for the A's, and I believe it's Vidal Nuno for the Yankees. I think this game really, really screams. Do I have him back?
Sorry.
We back.
I lost.
Hey, not
I lost internet.
Not an issue, not an issue. I just started discussing the A's and the Yankees game. Vidal Nuno and Jesse Chavez. I think the one guy here that I really, really love is Josh Donaldson against left-handed pitchers. Obviously, his ISO is like around, I think this season around like 417 or something crazy like that against left-handed guys. Now he has been like garbage lately.
0 for 25. It's a little scary.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very scary. You've seen the average dip from around 290, which is very, very, very solid, to 250. So that's super scary. But do you totally abandon everything because do you totally abandon it against the left-handed guy who he mashes?
No, absolutely not. He's definitely in play. There's no way you could ignore his numbers for the entire year due to a recent slump. If he breaks out today and you're not on him, you're going to be upset. Cespedes is definitely in serious consideration as well. He hits lefties as well. This whole team hits lefties pretty much. They're definitely a stack-worthy team. And there's no lineup, which makes it harder. Derek Norris, if he plays, which he probably will because he usually plays the lefties, but Derek Norris is definitely a solid catcher option.
Right. I think you're silly if you don't have some exposure to Donaldson, and I think a lot of people stay off of him because the 0 for 25, over 27, whatever it is. So I think, honestly, if you use him in GPPs, you might see him as a lower percentage own than you normally would, which is sad because
He's definitely gonna be lower percentage than usual.
right. Because of that over 25. And, I'm not telling you that he's going to go out there and not go over 4 because he very well might. That's just kind of how baseball is. But I think you're silly to totally ignore the fact that he's facing not a very good left-handed pitcher and he mashes lefties. So for that reason, I think he's one of the better third base options today. You mentioned Cespedes. These guys crushed Nuno last time they were in New York, I believe. Because
Yeah,
I think I stacked against Nuno last time, and they put up a bunch on him. So I think all those guys are kind of in play. Why not? But we are kind of slowing down on time a little bit. So I'm gonna jump from this game real quick because there are 4 more that I at least want to touch on in the slightest. The Rockies and the Giants. I know you were talking about Madison Bumgarner. Tell me what you got to say about Madison Bumgarner.
he is phenomenal. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the game today. The guy he's been great all year. I mean, if you just look at his numbers, it's 2.67 ERA, 1.18 WHIP, 95 Ks. You get points if people aren't on base, and he gets strikeouts. So those are pretty much his strengths. He doesn't let anybody on base, and he strikes a lot of people out. And honestly, Colorado's not a very good team. They have Tulo, who hits lefties well, so he's scary. But Corey Dickerson, Blackman, those guys don't scare me against a top tier pitcher.
Yeah, yeah, and the big thing about the Rockies lineup is, first of all, they're not at Coors Field, and secondly, they're without guys like Michael Kadire and Nolan Arenado and Carlos Gonzalez, which completely, like wipes that lineup out. Besides Tulo, so that's one of the big reasons that I think Bumgarner becomes even more of a play today. I like him a lot. I think he's safer, honestly, than Price. Sorry, I don't know why the phone always rings when I'm here. I think he's safer than when you think about a guy like David Price, especially when the Astros are 9 right-handed guys today. But any other thoughts on this game besides Bumgarner? Did I lose him? Hello? Okay, I think it's just me again. Sorry, guys. We'll get that internet worked out sometime here. Anyway, just me again right now. I hope everybody can hear me. Let me know if it's me here. We good? We good? We in? We good?
Yeah, I'm assuming my internet, my Wi-Fi is not working that great this morning.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're almost done here. We're gonna push through. If I can figure this out here, we're gonna push through these last couple games. Mentioned Bumgarner. We got 3 other ones. The Rangers and the Mariners. Hisashi, or sorry, not Hiwa. I always say Hiwasashi. It's Hisashi Iwakuma for the Mariners against. Let me scroll down here. Nick Martinez, the guy out of Fordham for the Rangers. Was Iwakuma the second guy that you really liked today?
Yes, he is. He doesn't let the guy's whip is under 1. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way you can ignore it. He's pitched against the Rangers this year. He had a decent outing. He didn't give up a lot of runs. Didn't give up a lot of hits. He didn't get a lot of Ks either. But he always has K potential. He's not necessarily a K pitcher, but he'll throw some 8 strikeout games for you. Get you some bonus points there. He's just a solid pitcher. And the only person that really hits him well is Beltre. I lost again.